WinterFest 2024 at Kings Island is just around the corner, and one of the most frequently asked questions is, are any of the rides open during WinterFest? Hello, everyone. Alongside Ryan Sir, I'm Don Helbig, and this is Tower Topics.
Tower Topics is a podcast by Kings Island fans for Kings Island fans, because that's who we are, and that's who we care about.
So, Ryan, rides, very much a part of WinterFest. They, pretty much have been since the event came back in 2017. You go back to the early years, when WinterFest was first there at Kings Island in 1982. Throughout the 80s, not a lot of rides were open, but since they brought it back in 2017, very much more a part of it.
Yeah, and I think it's funny because when we did the episode a few weeks ago about the racer being open, which we're terrible people for doing that story, by the way, but I was surprised how many people on in Facebook and in our comments and stuff said this is great news because all I care about are the rides. And I'll definitely come this year. I was on the fence because it was pretty much the same Z's the last several years, but I'm going to come this year. For me, having the racer open, I feel like it's the right thing to do. And I'm excited for it, but it's not like to me that this is going to be the greatest WinterFest ever because of that. I don't know, but let's get.
No, I mean, for me either. I mean, WinterFest, it was an added bonus always, to have some rides open. For me, it's always about the atmosphere. I like the shows. I like the food. It's a chance to see the park, in a different way that you get to do in the, the spring and summer months, even the fall months. It just looks, just beautiful. And it definitely, captures the spirit, of the holiday season when you're there. And then, oh, by the way, you got some rides. So it's always an added bonus. And to see rides like the Racer, being added, I think that's great. You got Mystic Timbers. Another roller coaster is open, Flight of Fear. So there are the roller coasters there for those that, that's what it's going to be all about for you, is to get more rides in. A lot of family rides. WinterFest is about families, so if you go to, to the kids area, Planet Snoopy, Camp Snoopy, you're going to have some of your favorite rides there are going to be open. And some of the most popular flat rides, they're open. I think the carousel looks beautiful, stunning during WinterFest. You got the Scrambler, Shake, Rattle, and Roll. Those rides are open. I think that, they look at the train, they got the 12 Days of Christmas, so there are a lot of rides out there that are open for you, but I'll be a little more specific. So Ryan, you want to go down the list of what you can do?
Yeah, sure. Well, I don't want to break my train of thought here because we were talking about the things. I did put up a poll for our listeners on our YouTube community poll, and these were the results. So 84 votes, 7% said shows were the most important, 27% said rides, and 65% said environment. So this is a distribution that does surprise me a little bit because I thought shows would be kind of a little bit higher. But environment being number one, I'm on board with it. I think environment is number one for me too.
Yeah, I think with the shows, part of that too is a lot of them are outside.
Mm-hmm.
And when it gets cold, people don't want to stand there for 20 minutes, watching a show. They'll watch 5 or 6, 7 minutes of it sometimes, then they move on because it's cold. They want to go get some hot chocolate. They want to go on a shop, or they go in the Fest House, something like that. So I think that plays a little bit into it. You look at the shows like Tinker's Toy Factory, always really good crowds inside the Kings Island Theater because you're inside, you're going to warm up a little bit. So I think that has a little bit to do where there's a little bit of, I think people really enjoy the shows. I just think it doesn't get the votes just because it's cold.
Right. But let's go through the rides here, as you mentioned. So Boo Blasters on Boo Hill, for some reason, is appropriate for Christmas, but not appropriate for Halloween Haunt. That boggles my mind.
Mine too. I don't get that one.
Yeah. Cargo Loco is kind of cool. You know what? The thing that I was thinking about a few months ago that I think they could do for Cargo Loco, and it would make it kind of a cool attraction in its own, is if you've ever been to Magic Kingdom when they have one of their parties, Christmas or Halloween, they're spinning teacups. They have like a special lighting rig. And even for Halloween, they had a fog machine and stuff. if they could set up something like that for Cargo Loco, I think that would be something that would garner pretty long lines and would be kind of interesting. Heck, they could do it with any of the other rides that are open too. But if they want to completely snatch the
That would
idea of
enhance the
Cargo Loco,
experience for sure.
yeah. The character carousel, that's a given. Carousels and Christmas. Charlie Brown's Wind Up. Dodgem's a nice one. Dodgem's another one where it would be cool if they played some, high speed Christmas music and had green. I think they do have the green and red lights because they do have that LED light system on there, which is really really good. Um, but that's another one I think that could be an attraction itself, where it's we never ride the spinning teacups, but we always ride it during parties because that's that's a must do thing that you have to do there. I think Dodgem's another one that's a candidate for that.
Right.
Speaking of which, Flight of Cheer, it's still listed as Flight of Fear on the website, but um, you know what they do for Space Mountain? They have Christmas lasers and the music and all that stuff. That would be cool if they did that inside Flight of Fear. That's another one. A lot of these ideas are like very softball ideas. Like I feel like they had the know-how, the equipment, and everything to just do it now. It's just they haven't had the time or they haven't thought about it or you know
Combination of both, I think.
yeah, I think that's quite possible, but I could see it happening moving forward. The people that would do this stuff are kind of passionate about what they do, so you could put that worm in their ear, and they might want to start doing it moving forward. Franklin's Flyers, Grand Carousel is a particularly special experience because it's all decked out for Christmas.
My favorite ride at Winterfest is the Grand Carousel.
Yeah, Joe Cool's Dodgem School, Kings Island and Miami Valley Railroad. So it's funny because somebody reached out to me, and that might have been in a group text with you, asking if it was going to be open because I guess it didn't make the first cut when they launched this website. But that would be an atrocity if you had a theme park with a train and the train wasn't open for Christmas.
Train has to be open during Winterfest, and they do a nice job decorating the train. They've got all the decor in that, on the coaches and the locomotive part of it is kind of dressed up too. But that's a staple Winterfest. You got to have the train.
Okay, so this is going to be a culmination of these two because the next one is Kings Mills Antique Autos. Personally, the 12 Days of Christmas thing gets like a lot of hate. And I was thinking about this a couple years ago. I feel like it gets a lot of hate because you got the train and you just get this feeling that something more could be done with it. I'm not saying to the scale of that whole Jack Rouse Associates thing that they did for Winterfest 2005, but maybe something that a little bit better and a little bit fresher. But the 12 Days of Christmas thing would be perfect for the Kings Mills Antique Autos.
That's where that around. I think. Yeah, I would switch that and do a little bit more of an immersive thing with the train, but that's just you and me talking.
Exactly. Nobody wants us on their corporate team. But but it's Antique Autos is a great ride for Christmas, and it's this kind of ride, if you think about it, makes perfect sense for the Christmas season.
There's that one part on Kings Mills Antique Autos when you kind of you turn the corner and right in front of you, and is the view of the Eiffel Tower. Mm-hmm. It just looks so stunning, beautiful, looks great.
Yeah, so I think they could do that. They drive around for the 12 Days of Christmas. The music would be outside. It would be speakers that are left around there rather than being onboard audio, which I don't think is sacrificing a lot. But I think that would list as somebody's like top 10 favorite things in Winterfest, maybe top 5, because the scale would be correct with it. Just my opinion. Linus Launchers, whatever. Mystic Timbers. People really enjoy the fact that this is open.
It's been a good fit for Winterfest. One of the things when that ride opened in 2017 was telling everybody as part of the announcement was that it was going to be one of the rides open for Winterfest. Winterfest was open or announced a few weeks later, but it was one of the things that as the ride was getting ready to open was this will be part of that lineup. And as we're going through this list here, a lot of it, and it's what Winterfest is about. It's about families. These are rides that families, everybody can kind of do together outside of the real small kids rides. So I think that's another thing that makes Winterfest special. And for those memories is you're doing these things together, with your family.
I agree. And, that's obviously a very important part of it. And I think that the fact that Mystic Timbers is not, Banshee is relatively important when it comes to these things. All right. So Peanuts 500, cool. Sally Seaplane, cool. Scrambler's another good one. I remember I think the Beach Water Park, when they had their Christmas event, they had like a mobile scrambler that they had rented.
Yeah, it
So
fits the festive atmosphere. I like that.
yeah. And then Shake, Rattle, and Roll, obviously a very good one. By the way, let's get back to Mystic Timbers real quick. Was there ever a discussion of doing something in the shed for Christmas? Because I know that they threw a Christmas tree in there and stuff, and what they did does look really cool. But with having video and stuff, that stuff's kind of interchangeable. So was there ever a discussion of like having Santa Claus on the screen or anything like
Yes,
that?
basic conversations, but nothing that ever was, let's really look into this. Just kind of, hey, wouldn't that be cool kind of a thing. As an option type of, we could do this down the road or something, but just never anything that really they got deep into the discussions with that.
To me, I feel like that was that one would cost money. That would be a commitment. The other two things, three things with 12 Days of Christmas on Antique Autos, and then doing essentially the spinning teacup treatment to Cargo Loco and or Dodge 'em. That's between the four of those would be a pretty low cost expansion to Winterfest, but I feel like the whole event would feel new if they did all four of those, even two of them. It'd feel like there's something, especially for a lot of the naysayers or rides people. So, if they're doing something new with rides, I think that's really cool. But let's press on. I digress. Seaplane, Scrambler, Shake, Rattle, and Roll, if they have the ability to, should just light up red and green. I don't know if they can do that or not, though. Snoopy versus Red Baron. And okay, now we're getting into a little juicy. Snoopy Soapbox Racers. So that's new for this year. The ride's new, and it's new for Winterfest. So that's kind of exciting, and I think that's kind of helped with the lines for the kids' rides because they've been very, very long during Winterfest.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about this before, and we touched on Winterfest and the kids areas that I mean, Peanuts, the holidays. I mean, it goes together.
It does. Somebody in the comments said that my idea for making a recreation of Charlie Brown Christmas as a stage show would be perfect.
Yeah.
And all right, Snoopy Space Buggies, Soul Spin for me. I think I had heard back and forth last year if that was going to be open or not, but I feel like that's one of those things where if it wasn't open, I would understand. But I'm grateful that it is open because it seems like people are willing to weather the cold and stuff on it. Great Pumpkin Coaster. Sure. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The Racer. So the Racer will be open for Winterfest. And
first time ever.
First time ever. And so there'll be the first time. I assume it's the first time you would have ridden it in December, correct?
Correct.
Or did you? So you never got to like ride it with the train half built from the park?
It was always one of those, the park would close, whether it was the last weekend in October, first weekend in November. And then those next couple of days, they're taking the trains off the tracks, taking them to the maintenance shop where they can start working on those. So there was never an opportunity, to ever ride it past the last day of the season, really. So this will be a first for everybody.
Yeah, it'll be a first for everybody. It's, a lot of people said that if you want to have the Racer, the Beast, all that open for Winterfest, then don't expect to have it ready for the spring. I guess we'll see. The Racer would be a really good candidate on account of the fact that I guess they could open one side with two trains and then add the other
if
side.
They were doing track work on the one side, like the last couple of years, where one year it was the red side, the next year it's the blue side, and that you could have opened one side and you could have done that. For this year, the plan is to run a train on each side, and I would expect that it's one train operation on each side, and they're going to be working on the other trains, because if it's all four trains running through December 31st, they're not having 4 trains ready to go by the middle of April when the park opens. It just can't get done unless they hire a lot more, add more people to the maintenance team, which they're not going to look to do that when you're, already making a bunch of cuts anyway, with salaries and that. So it's great that it's open. If it is 2-train operation, I would not be surprised if they open the season with 2-train operation, and they're not ready yet with the other trains, because it takes 4.5 months to get the trains for the Beast. You got 3 trains there, you got 4 trains with the Racer, then you've got 2 trains with Woodstock Express. So to get all those trains stripped down to every last nut and bolt and totally rebuild those trains, they're almost like new trains when the season begins in April. To do that takes 4.5 months of work to get that done.
The other option would be if
doesn't
they
get done any quicker.
Well, if they subletted 2 of the trains to like PTC, but we had Tom Rebbe on the Attractions Group podcast, and I asked him what the typical turnaround time is, and he said 6 months. So even that wouldn't work. But I think that first of all, our understanding, and subject to change because this is hearsay, is that they're running 1 on each side. Would you rather have 1 on each side so it races, or 2 on one side so it feels like the capacity is better?
The name of the ride is Racer, which means racing. So I would want 1 train on each side. So you have the racing element, is there. So I'm always a big fan of that. I mean, if you can, I would rather have 1 on each side than 2 on one side, because it's still, the capacity is going to be the same. Either way, you're still getting 60 people on, per dispatch, if you're doing it that way.
Yeah.
Versus 30, and then a couple minutes, 2 or 3 minutes later, there's another 30. So I mean, you get potentially 60 people out. Now it will take, it'll seem there could be 2 people in front of you, and that's still gonna be a 12 to 15 minute wait, in your queue. So I mean, that's with 1 train, that's what it is. I mean, it's just how it works. But to have the ride open, though, I think that's it's really good that they're doing that. It's going to be definitely a great addition. When you're in Coney Mall and you're riding the Racer and you look out and you see all the lights and everything, I just think it's going to be a real fun and memorable experience for those that ride the Racer during WinterFest.
I think so too. I think that it should have been open from the beginning, and I think that with how light the early season typically is, it feels busier than it is, but those first couple weeks aren't the busiest. If they want to have some of the, the Racer open, and the trade-off is only running 2 trains on the Racer in the spring for a few weeks, then I think that's a pretty fair trade-off, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, it works. And, I think there was a lot of surprise when, we talked about it being one of the rides that was going to be open, because nobody expected that, because for forever, going back to 1982 was always, we can't get the ride ready to go in April if we have it running during WinterFest. And then you had track work, so you couldn't have run both sides the past couple of years, because each side was getting some extensive track work done. That's now complete. So unless that happens again, you can run a train on each side. Now the Beast, there's going to be track work going on with that. It's pretty extensive. That could not have been open during WinterFest. Maybe when that finally gets all that track work is all done and completed, maybe another year or 2 down the road, maybe the Beast could be a part of the WinterFest lineup. If you got Mystic Timbers, you got the Racer, why not the Beast?
My only thought with the Beast is that maybe, with the Racer, from the top of the lift hill to the brakes is, a minute or so. And it might be asking a lot of people to ride the Beast when it's like 35 degrees out, 32. But with that being said, people will.
Oh, yeah, they will.
Okay. Well, Don, the rides are going to certainly be a lot of fun this year, and I'm very excited about that. But let's take a moment to thank some of our Prestige Pass members. So those Prestige Pass members, and this is the most updated list that I have. So if you don't hear your name and you just signed up, then it might be because you signed up after we recorded this episode. But Miss Mandy, 1983, Lil Mac, 21, Brian Hauser, Logan Lipper, 330T, and Aaron Board. So thank you guys so much for supporting us at the highest tier of Tower Topics memberships. If you guys are interested in becoming a Tower Topics member, that is the best way to support the show. And you can do that by clicking the link in the description. Becoming a member at any tier gets you access to early access to our videos. So we record these ahead of time, and then you'll get them before they get dropped on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. You'll get access to exclusive content of me and Don, screwing around afterward. People seem to like it for some reason. We'll have members only live streams as they're coming up. And then if you go up to the higher tiers, you can get either free stuff. You can get your name on the screen, as you just saw, or you can get your name said out loud. So thank you guys so much for being members. And thank you for supporting the show, whether you're a member or not. Let's move on to your stories. Okay. So this story is from Brian M., and he's from Northern Kentucky. Brian M. said, I'm a guy born in the 70s and grew up at Kings Island in the 80s and early 90s. Every Christmas, I remember getting that big paper certificate showing that I was a season pass holder. I remember that too.
Yeah,
I remember in the summer, one of the neighborhood moms taking me and my friends to Kings Island, dropping us off at the drop-off pickup area, and we each had maybe $10 on us for food for the day. Back then, a tram went from the gate to the drop-off area, but in the mornings, we would be too excited to wait for the tram and would run towards the gates. Don't remember what time we got picked up, but I know by the end of the day, we were tired, sunburned, and ready to go home and eat real food. The Screaming Demon was the first looping coaster I ever enjoyed. In college, I took a trip to Camden Park for one last ride because I had heard it was going to be taken down. I have fond memories of visiting KI as a child. Then in high school, I worked in ride operations and trained on the Beast and would move between Beast and Vortex, RIP. I had the unfortunate privilege of working on June 11th, 91, and remember hearing whispers about what had happened. I was working the Vortex that day and got a good view of the events that took place on the Flight Commander. Fast forward almost 30 years, and now I have a 10-year-old son of my own. He's not a big coaster fan yet, but loves to visit Kings Island. We never miss a night of Halloween Haunt. He cut his teeth riding coasters at Disney and Barnstormer, Big Thunder, Mountain Railroad, and Slinky Dog Dash. Before next year, he will suggest getting in line for Mystic Timbers or the Racer, but time will tell. Enjoy your honest coverage of Kings Island and the other parks. Thanks for taking the time and effort to put together this great podcast. Well, thank you so much, Brian, for listening to the podcast. So we did an episode on Flight Commander, but we never really did a full episode on that day, on Black Sunday. And I feel like that's something that maybe we could explore. Were you at the park that day, Don? You're at the park.
No, I was at. I heard about it coming back from Cedar Point. Mean Streak was new that year, so I made a trip to Cedar Point to ride Mean Streak that day.
Yeah. So anything that we do with this is going to be handled with grace. So it's not going to be one of those things where we delve into gory details or anything like that. But from an outsider looking in, especially somebody, I was a little kid when that incident happened, but it would be very interesting to hear accounts of people that were there and remember what happened. And I mean, I was there the day of the Son of Beast incident, which happened, 1 minute and 30 seconds after Cedar Fair bought the park. It felt like, because if you remember, the transaction closed on June 30th, and then the Son of Beast incident was like July 9th or something like that. But I remember being there and rode the Beast, and my phone was just exploding, just ringing and ringing. And it was my mom calling me to make sure that I wasn't one of the ones that was on the ride. And, I got a voicemail from her, and I was getting texts and stuff from other friends. But I remember helicopters flying overhead and stuff. And I remember associates telling people not, like they were in action zone, asking people not to go towards Son of Beast, because of course I had to go. I didn't want to look. I had to look. But those are the kind of situation that I would be interested in hearing from people that were there. But on the other hand, I'm eternally grateful that I didn't see it happen, because first of all, as much as like people love the whole like the morbid curiosity thing. I can imagine that's probably like the worst thing you could ever have in your life is being in line for a ride and seeing somebody. I actually know somebody that was not at Kings Island, but was standing there in a line and watch somebody get chucked from the ride, and they won't really talk about it and stuff. So, but yeah, you were very close, and I hope you didn't sit there and just watch it happen because that would be terrible.
I like the beginning of the story mentions, getting $10 for food for the day. I remember
Yes.
when $10 used to, you could take $10, you could eat lunch and you could eat dinner off of that. So, things have changed over the years.
I did
Then.
when I was visiting the park in the early '90s. That $10 is what I had too, and I would be able to eat and play some video games and stuff on $10. Absolutely incredible. Yeah, great story. So thank you for contributing. Don, if somebody else wants to tell us their story, how do they do that?
Well, we'd love to hear your Kings Island stories. For Ryan and I, it's been a big part of our lives, and we're sure it has been for you if you're a fan of this show. So just share your memories by emailing me at donhelbig@themeparksbydon.com. And in the subject line, just put story for TT. So I know in my email, to separate that from everything else that comes in. And just, let us know your Kings Island memories. It could be anything, whether you worked at the park, you met your spouse there, first ride ever riding the Beast, first time on a roller coaster, whatever it may be. We'd love to hear your stories. And this is going to be a feature every episode on Tower Topics. And we love sharing your stories. And from what listeners are telling us, they like hearing them.
Yeah, I think so too. So thank you once again for contributing that story, and we'd love to hear them. Don, it's getting cold out. How would you stay warm?
Well, I would stay warm by getting a Tower Topics full zip hooded sweatshirt. Comes in an ash gray color. It's got the Tower Topics logo on the chest, big logo on the back. Just $50. That includes the shipping. And if you're interested in one, you can either send us a direct message on our X, which is Tower_Topics. Give us a follow there if you're not already. Or you can send to that same email address, Don Helbig at themeparksbydon.com. Let me know you're interested. Let us know on X that you're interested, and we'll send you the QR code. And once the transaction goes through, it just takes a matter of days to get the shirt to you. It's also a great gift if you have a Kings Island fan, for the holidays. So with Christmas coming up, makes a nice gift. So yeah, real comfortable sweatshirt.
Yeah, I actually had some people reach out to me personally, and they said, "How do I get the T-shirt or the hoodie for Christmas gift?" So you wouldn't be alone if you bought that as a gift. But
no, not at all.
Yeah, very, very cool. We will be right back with the listener questions. All right, first listener question. Bob from Cincinnati, Ohio said, as a Kings Island fan, I enjoy this podcast, but I find it frustrating when members of the Kings Island communications team, whom I know personally, are questioned by individuals seemingly trying to maintain or gain relevance. What qualifications or expertise do you have in public relations that enable you to judge or critique their work? Don, do you have any experience in not even communications, Kings Island communications?
I mean, just, Ryan, not a lot, just, more than 3 decades worth of proven experience, successful experience. The years I did PR and social media for Kings Island were 17 seasons, industry leading results in terms of either media coverage, new ride launches, new ride announcements. In fact, 3 of the top 5 ride openings at Kings Island, new ride openings, were done while I was doing the PR, which was Diamondback, Banshee, and Mystic Timbers. The other 2 in that group were the Beast and the Vortex. So those 5, I got 3 of the 5 in terms of getting, what the media coverage was, in terms of the placement that you got, not only locally, but across the country, internationally, all those kind of things. Social media, the park engagements per post average was, number 1 among the Cedar Fair parks the years that I did it overall for all those years. Top 4 or 5 in the entire industry. So, Ryan, not a lot of experience there, I guess, to be talking about what they're doing, right? Before that, though, I'd also worked in professional hockey and did PR there, and did that for 18 years. Um, the only individual that won PR awards at 3 different hockey leagues. Might have been 4 if I'd taken a job in the NHL and gone there instead of Kings Island. But a lot of experience, and we're just you just see things. When you've either done it or you know what it's supposed to look like. So that gives to me, I mean, that makes me qualified to talk about it. And Ryan, although you never held a PR position at Kings Island, I mean, you do have PR experience.
Yeah. So I actually was mentored by one of the greats in PR that worked at Kings Island, was vice president of communications for Taft, worked at Australia's Wonderland as VP of communications. He took me under. I hope by saying all that they can figure out who it is, but I don't want to say his name without giving. Not that he would care, but
also one of my mentors, by the way, too, Ryan.
Yeah, so maybe he's just a crappy mentor, and they're right about us. We should get revenge. But no, so it's one of those things where I got the best of both worlds. Working with Don externally, as he mentioned, I've never been on Cedar Fair's payroll. Or Six Flags' payroll for that matter. And so Don was definitely more apt with the whole, the next generation of stuff, the digital stuff. Yeah, not just social media, but also understanding that, a press release isn't something that's mailed anymore. You don't go downtown to put it on the wire anymore. So you were always on the forefront of that. So I always saw that, and you never hesitated to teach me this stuff too. And I retain all that stuff. But also, Meph was always, and I just dropped his name, but he was very good at old school PR, and maybe his type of old school PR isn't necessarily at the forefront of what's done today because a lot of it's turn and burn, but he was so good at fostering these relationships. And, he would always be I'd meet him for lunch and he'd be on the phone in his car and be like, "Oh, I was just talking to a reporter from Indy." And I was like, "Oh, you getting a story out there?" No. I just called them to, check up and see how they're doing. So if you want a testament to how good that guy is, by the way, because I'm sure that some of the powers that be are going to send people to our comments to shoot down his credibility, which would be a mortal sin. Entertainment
Ryan, it's all about, you talk about, the individual that mentored both of us. I mean, if you can build and maintain relationships and you can see and recognize things that are stories and do a good job with your storytelling, I mean, you can be very successful at the PR role. And I think the other thing about it too, in terms of if we're calling something out or we notice something, again, we know what it's supposed to look like because we've been there, done that, got the T-shirt kind of a thing. Is we also show up for it. And what I mean by that is we can talk about stuff on the show, but we still go to the park.
Right.
And we're still there. So if somebody has a problem with us from the park, instead of internally grumbling about us or trying to have messengers, do their bidding for them and stuff, show up too, approach us, talk to us about it if you have an issue, with something. But you and I show up for it, and we're there. So if somebody ever, from the park takes offense to anything we're doing, I don't care, if we're talking about, the culinary experience, the live entertainment, whatever it might be, operations. If you have an issue, Ryan and I, we show up. We're at the park, seek us out, talk to us about it, and we certainly appreciate a conversation with you if there's something that we say that I guess strikes a chord with you in the wrong way.
Right. And but the point I was talking about with him was so the beloved soon to be expired Entertainment Junction, which, by the way, before this is in the comments, before you send people to put this in the comments, is not going out of business. The owner's retiring. Christmas in July. You talk about it's easy to do Christmas. It's easy to do Halloween. Christmas in July is you got to make it interesting. They've done it the same way every single year for 15 years. And every single year, they've had every camera out in Cincinnati. They're doing lives. They would have, the Dayton cameras, maybe some outliers like Indy and Lexington and stuff. For something that, if it was put in front of somebody that maybe is kind of doing it now at certain places, they would be like, oh, I'm not going to make the effort to do that because they're not going to run a story. It's like they only not run a story if you don't know how to tell a story. And he reinvents that same event every year, and they come out every year. They came out every year, I guess, since they've had.
You can make something newsworthy. The media will cover it. They'll cover something 5 days a week if you've got something that's newsworthy 5 days a week. But we talk about different things. I mean, timing with a lot of things. Nice video the other day that the park posted. The scare zone that they had, the pirate themed one. So they do a video and they got all the pirates on the Viking Fury and they're saying thanks for coming to Halloween Haunt. That video would have been a great way to promote that scare zone while the event was still going on, not after the event's over. Now it's time to
release. Yeah, release it on Thursday and say, "Hey, this is your last opportunity." I think that would have been perfect timing.
Yeah, talk about it while the event's going on and get people interested and excited about that. But after the event's over, you got to turn the page. Now's the time to talk about WinterFest. Don't be showing what was probably your best video that you did all year, your best piece of content for Halloween Haunt. You wait till the event's over to show that. So those are the kind of things that, like I said, Ryan and I know what it's supposed to look like, and that's where we sit. And Bob, appreciate the question, but that's one of the things about this show is we're genuine, authentic with it, and if we see something that's great, we talk about it. If we see something that could be a little bit better, we talk about it, and we share it with fans of the park who oftentimes agree with what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's the vast majority agree, and then there's always a few that. I mean, I'm not doubting that there's some people out there that think that like everything they do is great and so on, but I feel like a lot of the people that are like that have a bit of an agenda in terms of maybe they've been told that they need to do that to get a media day, or maybe that's the written policy about going to media day.
Oh, we can do a whole episode about media days on some, information that, came across my desk, over the last several weeks. So we could do a whole thing about what you had to do to be on the media list if we want to go down that road at some point, but we won't right now.
So I know what you're talking about, but I also had like the most horrible thoughts in my head when you said, well, what you have to do to get on the media list. Anyway, I kid. But yeah, let's cut this off here before we count the chickens.
Yeah, but again, thanks for the question, Bob.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. Next listener question. This one is from Zach H. Now from Orlando. Do you know why they stopped running the racer backward, or do you know if it will ever do it again? Also, what do you like better, forwards racer or backwards racer?
Management decision. Only reason the racer does not run backwards on one side anymore. Nothing more, nothing less. There was nothing, state of Ohio didn't say you can't run it backwards. Used to be one of the conspiracy theories was the state said you couldn't do it. The manufacturer, of the train said you couldn't do it. That was another conspiracy theory. They always said we don't recommend it. Never said you couldn't do it. But it was just a management decision that, 2007, I remember working the basketball game when I was told, somebody from Cedar Fair, one of the higher ups, was walking around pointing to the ride, told me, I understand you're familiar with that. Which side do you like, but what way you like it better? And I told him I liked it better when both sides, this is the answer to the question too, I liked it better when both sides went forward. And he said, good, because you're the one's going to deal with that when I turn it around next year. So, and they walked off, so that's how I found out about it. But no, it's just a management decision, just something that they weren't comfortable with it. And that's just the way it is. Could they run it backwards again if they wanted to? Yeah. Will they do it again in the future? You can't rule it out. I mean, they could. Will they? I don't know. I think there'd have to be some different, different people in place that would be involved in making that decision. I think, right now there's some people there that wouldn't be comfortable with it, but, you never say never. But in terms of which way that I preferred when, both sides went forward. That's the way I started riding the ride when it opened in 1972. So for me, it was always more enjoyable overall that way. It wasn't unique. It was, when one side first turned around backwards, it was a novelty, type thing. It was kind of fun to do, but there came a time where I was like, okay, I wish they'd turn it back around and both sides going forward again.
See, I think that there's a huge case for having one side backward. And there is an episode that we did where we talk about the backward racer, and I think we kind of exhausted it. But the short of it is, I mean, if anything, people still comment on that video, and it's been a year where it's like, oh, I wish they would turn that back around. And you get random people on the streets that are like, I can't believe they don't do the backward racer anymore. So I think the appetite is there. I'm not going to spill the beans, but there is
50th anniversary would have been a good time to do that, and that was something that was brought up, but just not an idea that, was decided to move forward with. But it comes up all the time. I mean, we know that, you hear about it all the time. Like you said, that episode's over a year old and people are still asking about it. When I see people at Kings Island, they always ask me, why doesn't it go backwards anymore? People will message me, why doesn't it go backwards anymore? Anytime I post about the race or do a blog about the race, why doesn't it go backwards anymore? So you're right, there's an appetite still out there for that.
Remember when they had the park map with Orion and it had one side going backward?
Oh yeah.
That was a contract that they violated. Anything on a printed sign's a contract, even if it's just a picture. I think that there's something that's rumored in the industry, and I'm not going to at all. I'll tell you what it is after we stop recording. But I want to save it for an episode if it comes true. But if this happens, then I think that there would be a strong case for doing that. But for turning the racer back around. But I'm going to leave it at that, and hopefully the rumor is true, so we can have that discussion too, because I think that would be a cool thought experiment. But yeah, thanks for the question, Zach. I'm Ryan Sir, along with Don Helbig, and this is Tower Topics.